Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Okay, let's talk about stress. If you feel like your nervous system has just been, running a perpetual marathon lately, you are definitely not alone. In this fast-paced, always connected world, anxiety has, tragically become a really common companion for millions of people. We're constantly trying to navigate the demands of modern life, plus all those relentless pressures from society, and honestly, it takes a serious toll. The good news, though, is that powerful tools exist to help us cope. And today we are diving deep into one that's gained massive popularity, and it's actually backed by science, guided meditation, specifically for anxiety relief.
That's right. And, for a long time, meditation might have sounded a bit esoteric, maybe inaccessible, especially if you were already finding it hard to focus. But guided meditation, or GM, has really emerged as this highly effective, evidence-based way to cope. So our mission today is to unpack the hard science behind it and the practical evidence, too. We want to move past the simple idea that it's just about sitting still and relaxing for a bit. We need to understand why it fundamentally changes how your body and your brain react to stress.
Yeah, exactly. And before we go further, let's just quickly define it, because I think the guided part is what makes it so accessible, right? Guided meditation is different from silent practice because it uses a narrator, a guide, who leads you step by step through the whole process. And that guidance, it's a real game changer, I think, especially if you're new to meditation or if anxiety makes it feel, impossible to hold your focus.
Precisely. That structure is absolutely essential for many people. And what makes it so much more than just a quick calming technique is its profound effectiveness, which is backed by solid evidence. Study after study has consistently shown that regular practice significantly reduces anxiety symptoms. It offers a real path forward for people dealing with everyday stress or even more challenging conditions like generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay, so let's explore the mechanism then. Why does it work? You mentioned this incredible dual benefit, which I find fascinating. It's not just working on your mental state, your thoughts and feelings, but it's actually changing your physical wiring too, mind and body.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here is how truly holistic that benefit is. We know it brings mental peace, a sense of calm, but crucially, it also provides enhanced physical health. How? By directly mitigating those physiological responses linked to stress. This is where we shift from just feeling better to actually being healthier on a biological level.
Okay, tell us more about that physical component, because this is where the conversation gets really meaty, I think. When we're chronically stressed, what's actually happening in our bodies, and how does guided meditation step in?
Well, the primary antagonist, if you like, in chronic stress is cortisol. That's the body's main stress hormone. Now, we need it for that fight or flight response short term. But when it's constantly elevated, which is what happens with chronic anxiety, it really wreaks havoc on the system. Regular guided meditation actively helps reduce stress hormones, specifically by lowering those circulating cortisol levels.
And think about what that high cortisol does to you listening right now. It's probably why you feel perpetually wired, maybe why your sleep is terrible, why you feel physically exhausted even when you haven't done much. So getting rid of that constant chemical bath, that sounds transformative.
It really is. And beyond just hormone regulation, regular practice has also been observed to reduce systemic inflammatory responses. Now, for individuals dealing with chronic stress or something like GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, which involves that persistent, excessive worry that chronic stress often translates into physical problems, think headaches, gut issues, muscle tension. So by lowering inflammation, guided meditation offers a serious clinical benefit that goes hand in hand with the mental relief.
That clinical backing is so important, isn't it? Knowing that studies have consistently shown GM can be as effective as other well-established alternative therapies, things like structured relaxation exercises or even sustained physical activity. It really positions it as a compelling non-pharmaceutical option for people.
Absolutely. And if we can dive a bit deeper, maybe look at the neurobiology, what's actually changing inside the brain when you dedicate time to this practice. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so regular guided meditation seems to actually alter brain structures involved in emotional regulation. The two main players we talk about here are the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala. You can think of it as the brain's alarm system, or its fear center. It's the part that kind of yells danger when you encounter something stressful, a trigger.
Okay. So Essentially, we're training that alarm system to maybe stop being quite so sensitive, not go off unnecessarily.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. Regular practice seems to structurally reduce the amygdala's reactivity. It doesn't, eliminate the alarm altogether. You still need it sometimes, but it turns down the volume and reduces the frequency of those false alarms. This means you're less likely to just fly off the handle or feel instantly overwhelmed by an anxious thought or situation.
Okay, so if the amygdala is the panicky fire alarm, what's the prefrontal cortex doing in this picture?
Right. Well, if the amygdala is the overly sensitive alarm, the prefrontal cortex is more like the rational fire chief. It's the area of the brain responsible for our executive functions, things like thoughtful decision-making, planning, and maintaining calm awareness. Meditation appears to enhance the function of this area. It basically gives you more cognitive resources to pause, calmly assess a situation, and decide on a response, rather than just reacting out of pure anxiety. And this simultaneous effect, reducing reactivity in the amygdala while enhancing thoughtful processing in the prefrontal cortex. This is why guided meditation is so effective at building genuine emotional resilience. You're literally creating more space between the stimulus, say, the anxious thought, and your response to it.
That space.
Yes.
Yeah, that space feels like the key skill we're cultivating here. And this brings us nicely to that crucial mental outcome that big health authorities like Harvard Health really emphasize this concept of detachment.
Yes, detachment. Now, it might sound a little cold or distant, but it's really about observation. Guided meditation teaches you to observe anxious thoughts and feelings without judging them, and crucially, without getting totally entangled in them. You learn to see the thought, acknowledge its presence, but you don't instantly jump onto that worry train and follow it all the way down the rabbit hole.
But hang on, doesn't that risk sounding a bit like avoidance or suppression? How do we know we're genuinely dealing with the anxiety and not just trying to, push it away?
That's a really critical distinction, and it's a common question. Avoidance is refusing to even look at the feeling. Suppression is trying to forcefully push it down. Detachment is actually the opposite. It requires full acknowledgement. You're looking directly at the thought or feeling, but you're creating a little bit of distance. You start to recognize, I am having an anxious thought, rather than completely identifying with it and thinking, I am anxiety. This kind of non-judgmental observation promotes a more balanced, less reactive state of mind, and ultimately it gives you a much clearer perspective on things.
Okay, that makes sense. So we understand the incredible internal changes happening from hormones like cortisol to brain areas like the cortex. But for someone listening right now, maybe feeling overwhelmed by their anxiety, the biggest question is probably, okay, but how is this magic actually done? What are the practical techniques used in guided meditations for anxiety relief?
Right, the how-to. Well, the beauty of the guided format is that it uses a handful of common, really practical, and highly effective techniques. These are specifically designed to help regulate your nervous system and shift your focus. The first one, almost always, is controlled breathing. This is like a direct switch for the nervous system. By deliberately slowing down and deepening your breath, you send a signal to your brain that you're safe, which directly counteracts that fight or flight response. It works almost instantly.
And breathing often gets paired with the body scan, right? Which I think a lot of beginners find surprisingly helpful, maybe even revealing.
Absolutely. Body scans are these systematic techniques where the guide leads your attention through different parts of your body, usually from head to toe, or vice versa. A lot of us hold anxiety as physical tension, maybe in the shoulders, the jaw, the stomach, and often we don't even realize it until we consciously focus on those areas. The body scan helps you locate that stored tension and then consciously, gently release it.
And then there are the more mental tools like visualization.
Exactly. Visualization exercises are used frequently. The guide might prompt you to imagine a peaceful scene like a quiet beach, maybe a forest path, or sometimes visualize positive outcomes or feelings. This is a very deliberate, focused way to interrupt the cycle of worry and redirect your cognitive resources away from those anxious loops that just go round and round. And perhaps a critical final component is what we might call thought reframing, or mindful observation of thoughts. The guide teaches you how to simply notice worries without judgment, perhaps even encouraging you to gently label them like, there's that worry about work again, which helps to reduce the actual power those worries have over your actions and feelings.
The great thing about this whole toolkit is just how accessible it's become. This isn't some niche, difficult practice anymore that requires you to go off to an expensive retreat somewhere. We're living in a time where guided meditation is readily available in countless formats: audio, video, mobile apps, often for free or very low cost.
Yeah, the landscape has totally changed. We've seen these big commercial apps like Headspace or Calm, for instance, providing really structured, often scientifically backed programs. They make meditation feel appealing, achievable, and they often help turn consistency into almost a gamified, scheduled process, which works for many people.
And we really can't overlook the role technology, especially social media and platforms like YouTube, has played in demystifying all this. You have influencers and creators putting out so much free content, approachable audio guides, video sessions, making it incredibly easy for beginners to just dip their toes in whenever they have 5 minutes or 20. Total convenience.
It's also worth mentioning that many sources still recommend group-based mindfulness programs as excellent starting points. That structure, the shared experience, the community support that can be invaluable for some. But yeah, the bottom line is you can genuinely start exploring this today with minimal, if any, investment.
Which moves us perfectly into the real payoff, doesn't it? Section 4, the real-life impact. This is where all that scientific data we talked about is fully supported by, well, literally millions of user testimonials. We're not just talking about abstract numbers and studies anymore. We're talking about tangible, noticeable improvements in daily life.
Indeed. And we hear countless personal stories that really validate the lab findings. People report being able to handle high-stress situations at work, like a sudden tight deadline or a difficult meeting, without the usual accompanying panic or overwhelm. We see measurable improvements in sleep quality, which is huge. And often, people talk about more harmonious relationships because they find themselves being less reactive and more present with their partners, their kids, their families.
It makes sense. When you improve your mental clarity and your emotional resilience by, like you said, training that prefrontal cortex, the ripple effect on your overall quality of life seems undeniable. It empowers people to navigate the inevitable bumps and challenges of modern life with a bit more ease, maybe more confidence.
And that sense of empowerment, I think, is what makes the practice sustainable long term. It's not really a quick fix. It's more like active training for your brain, building toward lasting mental health.
Okay, perfect. So let's run through maybe the most frequent practical questions that someone listening who's feeling ready to try this might have, almost like a little starter guide. First up, how do I even start? And how do I find the right resource for me?
Good question. The first rule I'd say is resonance. Find a resource that genuinely clicks with you. It could be an app, a specific YouTube channel, maybe just a particular narrator whose voice you find calming and trustworthy. And the key then is to set aside just a few dedicated minutes each day. Really, start small. Maybe just 5 minutes. Then you can gradually increase the duration as you get more comfortable. The goal isn't necessarily the longest session, it's the most consistent one.
Consistency. Okay, that leads right into the next question.
Yeah.
How often should I actually practice?
Consistency really is everything here. The ideal is to practice daily, even if it's only for a short period. The studies show that the cumulative benefits, those structural changes in the brain we discussed, they take time and repetition to build up. Doing, say, 10 minutes every single day is infinitely more effective than trying to do a marathon 2-hour session once a month.
Got it. Daily, even if short. Okay, last common question. What about setbacks or difficulties? Are there any side effects I should worry about?
Generally speaking, guided meditation is overwhelmingly safe and pretty much free from adverse side effects. That's one of its major advantages. The one thing people sometimes encounter, and where patience is needed, is that as you sit still and start paying closer attention to your inner world, you might initially become more aware of difficult or suppressed emotions. That can feel uncomfortable at first. If those challenging feelings do arise, the guidance is always the same. Try to observe them with that non-judgmental awareness we talked about. Allow them to be there without fighting them, and realize that gently confronting them is actually part of building resilience. It's not a sign that the practice is failing you.
Right, that patience is key. So to bring our deep dive full circle here, guided meditation isn't just some passing trend. It really does offer a viable, incredibly accessible, and scientifically supported path toward cultivating more calm and resilience, especially in the face of all this modern complexity. It's a structured tool that actively works to retrain your body and brain's responses to stress.
Exactly. And the true takeaway, I think, is the power of developing that skill of observation. You're training yourself to notice the difference between simply having an anxious thought and automatically believing the thought defines your entire reality or dictates your actions.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider as you go about your day. In practicing this detachment technique, this skill of observing thoughts without judgment, helps you manage your current anxiety and stress right now today. Think about the long-term potential. What might consistently practicing this kind of mental skill do for your bigger goals? For your thoughtful decision-making? Could it help you filter out the noise of self-doubt or that anxious urgency so you can focus more clearly on what truly matters to you? Something to definitely think about. Thank you so much for joining us today as we explored the really profound neurobiological and practical benefits of guided meditation for anxiety relief. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.